Robert Mercer stared at the contract on his desk, the culmination of 6 months of negotiations with Westridge Technologies. As senior partner at Mercer & Associates, landing this client would mean expanding their IT security firm into 3 new states. He should have been elated. Instead, his mind kept drifting to the strange conversation he'd had with his wife Ellen last night. After 22 years of marriage, he knew her rhythms, her tells. Something was off. "Just working late again," she'd said, not meeting his eyes. "The Anderson case is complicated." Ellen had been a paralegal at Hoffman & Wright for 15 years. Working late wasn't unusual, but lately it had become the norm rather than the exception. 3 nights a week had become 4, then 5. The Anderson case had been complicated for nearly 3 months now. Robert signed the contract and slid it into his outbox. He'd celebrate alone tonight. Again. His phone buzzed with a text from his friend Marcus. "Still on for golf Saturday?" The golf course had always been Robert's sanctuary. The methodical rhythm of the game, the strategic thinking, the open air. It cleared his mind like nothing else. "Your swing's off today," Marcus observed, as Robert's ball hooked into the rough on the 7th hole. "Everything okay?" Robert sighed, leaning on his club. Ellen's been distant. Working late constantly. Sarah works in billing at Hoffman & Wright, remember? She mentioned it last week when I asked about Ellen. The firm hasn't had an Anderson case in over a year. The club felt suddenly heavy in Robert's hands. "There must be some mistake." Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe there is, but you might want to look into it." Robert sat in his car outside Hoffman & Wright at 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Ellen had texted that she'd be working late again. He watched as employees trickled out of the building, chatting and laughing, heading home to their families. A tall man with salt and pepper hair walked beside her. Robert recognized him immediately. James Hoffman, founding partner of the firm. Ellen laughed at something he said, her hand briefly touching his arm. They walked to the parking garage together, disappearing from view. Robert's hands tightened on the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. 20 minutes later, Ellen's car remained in the garage. Hoffman's sleek black Mercedes pulled out and headed north, away from the man's Brookside home and toward the Lakeside Hotel. Robert followed at a distance, his heart pounding in his ears. The Mercedes pulled into the hotel's parking lot. Ellen emerged from the passenger side. For 3 days, Robert said nothing. He went through the motions at work, came home, ate dinner with Ellen, and listened to her lies about the fictional Anderson case. Each word felt like a knife twisting in his chest. Tossa. He hired a private investigator who confirmed what he already knew. Tuesday and Thursday evenings at the Lakeside Hotel. Sometimes lunch meetings at a small French bistro across town. The affair had been going on for at least 4 months. "Yes," she said, not looking up from her phone. "We're close to settling, but there are complications." After she left, Robert poured himself 2 fingers of scotch and called his brother Michael, an attorney specializing in family law. The following Thursday, Robert left work early. He went home, packed a small bag, and waited. At 5:15, he received Ellen's predictable text, "Working late again. Don't wait up." He drove to the Lakeside Hotel and parked where he could see the entrance. At 6:20, the black Mercedes pulled up. Ellen and Hoffman walked inside, his hand on her lower back, a possessive gesture that made Robert's blood boil. Robert waited 15 minutes, then entered the hotel. At the front desk, he smiled pleasantly. The receptionist smiled. "Mr. Hoffman is in room 412. I can call up for you." "Actually," Robert said, "I'd like to surprise him. It's a business matter, but we're old friends." The young woman hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, sir. The elevators are to your right." Robert took the elevator to the 4th floor, his heart hammering in his chest. Outside room 412, he paused, listening to the muffled sounds of conversation and laughter from within. The laughter stopped. After a moment, Hoffman's voice called out, "Who is it?" More silence. Then footsteps approached the door. It opened to reveal Hoffman in a hotel bathrobe, his expression changing from confusion to shock. Robert pushed past him into the room. Ellen sat frozen on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a sheet, her face draining of color. "Don't bother," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I know about the Anderson case. Quite complicated, isn't it?" "Reasonable?" Robert laughed, a harsh sound. Is that what you call sleeping with my wife for the past 4 months? Reasonable? Save it, Robert cut her off. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, tossing it onto the bed beside her. Divorce papers. Michael drew them up for me. You'll find the terms quite generous, considering the circumstances. Go ahead, Robert said. I'm sure the partners at your firm would love to hear about how you're sleeping with an employee. Isn't there a morality clause in your partnership agreement? Not to mention the potential sexual harassment suit. Robert turned back to Ellen. I've moved your things to the guest room. You have 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Ellen, you're fired. James here doesn't have the authority. Only his brother does. I played golf with Richard last weekend and filled him in on everything. Robert walked out, closing the door behind him. In the elevator, his hands finally began to shake. Shar. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Ellen moved to Cincinnati to live with her sister. Hoffman remained at the firm, though he was removed from the management committee after a vote by the partners. Robert threw himself into his work. The Westridge contract led to others, and Mercer and Associates expanded into 5 new states. He sold the house, Too Many Memories, and bought a modern condo downtown. On the 1-year anniversary of discovering the affair, Marcus insisted on taking him out for drinks. It can be, Marcus replied. Sarah wants you to come to dinner next week. Her friend Claire is visiting from Seattle. Divorced, 2 grown kids, runs her own graphic design business. Robert thought about the empty condo waiting for him, about the silence that had become his constant companion. Claire had laugh lines around her eyes, and a quick wit that caught him off guard. She didn't ask about his divorce, and he appreciated that. Instead, they talked about books, travel, their children's college adventures. After dinner, they walked along the riverfront, the city lights reflecting on the water. I know, she said. When my ex left, I thought I'd never feel normal again. As they walked back toward the restaurant, Robert felt something shift inside him, a weight lifting, just slightly. The betrayal would always be part of his story. But perhaps it didn't have to be the end of it.